course, yesterday I made a video on the IRS scandal and the phone scandal, the NSA shit, and today there are a couple more scandals to discuss. One, of course, broke just after I made that video and I was tired, about how apparently it's not just phone conversations that are being meddled with by the government through this PRISM system and all that nonsense. It's the internet too, and they're forcing companies on a daily basis to give them all sorts of backdoors and data on users, which is even more concerning than the phone problem. Also, it just came out, apparently they leaked something else that has Obama's signature on it saying for Clapper there to look for soft targets to attack with hackers. We don't have a clue what the fuck is going on right now. Right now, Washington is in complete disarray. The New York Times has come out and said that Obama's lost credibility. And it's not just Obama, by the way. It's the Republicans and Democrats. Both parties voted for the Patriot Act almost unanimously. Both parties are involved with this overreach. It's an extensive overreach of our privacy. This is a major, this isn't some minor issue of, oh, well, the government did something wrong, it was inept for a moment. This is a systemic problem. This is systemic ineptitude and corruption at its finest. This is beyond Nixon levels. And when they say beyond Orwellian and Obama comes out and says, don't worry, nobody's listening to your phone calls, but they are. They clearly are, and he's clearly lying. Does nobody understand what a big issue this honestly is? This is not something small. This is something gigantic. This is not making a mountain out of a molehill. This is climbing a mountain and not realizing how big it really is until you get to one peak and you see there's a higher peak beyond it. If these are things that Obama didn't want us to know, and they're just coming to light because of leaks, what else is under the carpet for us to sweep out? I am calling for impeachment. I believe that he should be impeached over these things. Now, as somebody, I'm not a Tea Partier. Check my videos. I'm obviously not very right-leaning on most issues. But he should be impeached for these things. He should be held accountable because you have to understand, it's one of two ways. And in either way, impeachment is the right decision. On the one hand, Obama could be completely oblivious about most of this, in which case his oversight of his own staff is so limited and so inept, he is not fit to serve, certainly not as the commander-in-chief of the military, certainly not as president. On the other hand, if he does know that these things are going on, and he either ordered them to go on, or he's aware of them and doesn't stand in their way, he's completely and utterly corrupt and doesn't understand the Constitution. And right now there's a hell-like firestorm going off in CNN of all places. Now last night, before the internet scandal and this new one with the hackers developed, it was a trickle of people who normally are left-leaning, and some of these people, I can remember them on the CNN comment sections, supporting Obama during the last election. I was one of them at the time because, of course, Romney was no better. And these people are saying, there's something fishy going on here. This is wrong, this is overreach, this is corruption, looking a little bit like East Germany during the 1980s or something like that. Now it's not a trickle anymore. Now it's a tidal wave of people today because, of course, we've got that next scandal to work on. People are up in arms. And I'm seeing a lot of people calling for impeachment, a lot of people comparing the government now essentially to Stalin-era Russia, and they're right. And what's even more concerning is that the so-called conspiracy theorists, the sort of tinfoil hat-wearing people that rant about the Illuminati, predicted and said that these things would or were happening years ago. And like most people, I brushed them off, and I said, the government's not doing that. They don't have enough data processing capabilities to look through all those records. Well, they can't possibly be hiring these groups of hackers because it's just not economically feasible. They don't even have enough money to pay down the debt. They would never misuse the IRS to target other political groups. And they were all right. They were all completely 100% true. Now, I feel like an asshole because I was calling these people out as conspiracy theorists, and now in retrospect I realize actually I was wrong and they were right. They were dead on all of their predictions. This is beyond anything Nixon ever could have imagined doing. This is beyond McCarthy era. This is beyond Hoover. This is beyond them all. This is the pinnacle of filth and perversion at the highest levels of government that we've ever seen in the United States. I think it's just now beginning to dawn on people. Of course, when they started attacking journalists at Fox, a lot of the liberals and the left-leaning libertarians didn't really care, and I was among them, because I always thought Fox News was so stupid anyway, they kind of deserved it for years of bad reporting. Then the AP scandal broke. AP didn't deserve that shit, because AP is usually pretty balanced, and usually pretty fair. And then we've got all these other scandals to munch on. This is a limitless amount of corruption from a very few years of people being in government. And it's not all the Democrats' fault, and I think that's another problem, is a lot of people are going on to these areas and saying, well, it's this party's fault or that party's fault. No, it's both of their faults. Bush is at fault, and the people surrounding Bush are at fault for mishandling 9/11 and for authoring the Patriot Act. Obama and the Democrats are responsible for perpetuating these terrible things, expanding upon them, and even more loosely and vaguely applying them to remove liberty. Obama comes out and says, well, this is just a moderate infringement of your privacy. Essentially, it's worth losing a little bit of privacy if we stop some of those terrorists. No, this isn't a moderate infringement of privacy. This is a severe limitation on privacy. You can't go on the internet and have any privacy. You can't make a phone call and have any privacy. That's a severe, severe affront to the right to privacy in the country. Not moderate. This is not just somebody might listen in if you say a few keywords. This is your data's being downloaded as you speak. There's nothing you can do about it. Ha, and by the way, we're not telling you who was on the secret court who authorized it. And Obama knows absolutely nothing about it and never ordered it. It's just in somebody else's ballpark, in somebody else's hands. Let me ask you this. If this surveillance program is so effective at dealing with domestic terrorists, or foreign terrorists, anyone for that matter, if it's so astoundingly effective, why the Boston Marathon bombings? Why were they not stopped? Because Tsarnaev was talking on Facebook about this material. Well, I thought Facebook was supposed to be monitored by this system. Why didn't it work? Surely he talked to some people on the cell phone. The Russians gave us intel that this sort of thing would happen. The FBI had looked into him already, and yet he still got away with it, despite all of these resources, billions and billions of dollars. So, obviously it's not working for what they're saying the purpose is. It's not keeping us more safe, so what else could it possibly be used for? And then you have Obama coming out and attacking political opponents through the IRS. Nixon was impeached for essentially the same thing, for spying on his political opponents. They're doing the same thing at the IRS right now, only it's worse. Not only are they just surveilling them, they're surveilling the entire population, or at least everyone who has an internet connection and or a phone of any kind. They're surveilling everyone, not just political opponents now. They're harassing people on the other side of the aisle, and as I pointed out, I don't care about the Tea Party or any of these right-leaning movements, but they should not be infringed by such idiocy. They shouldn't be attacked in this way. They have every right to form their own organizations. I don't agree with them, but I don't want to put undue pressure on them and say, I beat the system and cheated them out of their ability to form a non-profit. This is ridiculous. It's completely fucking ridiculous and insane. And the fact that there are still a handful of people that don't seem to understand this, that don't seem to understand that, yes, your liberty is at threat right now. The Fourth Amendment is going out the window as we speak. It's going out the fucking window right now. This isn't somebody ranting about the sky is falling, the sky is falling. It's been happening for a while. We know this. ever since the Patriot Act was authored. But it's speeding up. It's getting more and more concerning by the day. Why do you think they're building a multi-billion-dollar data center in Utah? What possible purpose could that serve? They only have, thousands of servers there whose sole purpose is to data mine. And yes, they say, well, companies do this all the time. What's your problem? Well, private companies aren't going to send the G-men to your door if they find out that you were using somebody else's product. And if they're using the IRS to target political opposition, what's to stop them from using what about the ATF or the FBI? Let's harass these people over here. It's happened before. People don't seem to remember the civil rights movement. The FBI was used to harass people in blacks' rights groups. It was used in that manner. The CIA has harassed people before. During the McCarthy era, if you didn't agree with this sort of anti-communist rhetoric because you actually bothered to read the Constitution, you were deemed a threat, and you were kept out of jobs, and you were put on watch lists, and you were followed around, and then when you mentioned these things, you were labeled paranoid and sent to a psych ward. This isn't paranoia. The only thing paranoid is the government attempting to keep tabs on all citizens at all times. So yes, we should impeach Obama. We should impeach Biden. We should remove all of the people among the staff, Eric Holder, Clapper, all of these people should go. First, we should pressure them to resign. We should say, what else are we supposed to do? We're tired of your shit. Please leave. And of course, none of them will, but that gives them the chance, and we can say, we told you to leave, and then we can move forward with impeachment. Now, of course, we should have impeached Bush, too. And I agreed with that fairly early on. I pointed that out to people. I said Bush should be impeached for war crimes. This is even more compelling. This isn't we're bothering people on the other side of the ocean. Yes, we're doing that. We're also now surveilling the entire population. How many state senators do you think have their information on file right now? How many journalists, even from places like MSNBC, that worship the shit that Obama purges out of his asshole after a burrito dinner with the Mexican president? How many people do you think are on these lists that are actually politicians and lawyers and judges? They use cell phones too. They go on YouTube and look up cat videos. They use Facebook. A lot of them do. These are important. These are people. I don't understand why Obama wanted to piss off AP and the New York Times and Jon Stewart and all of these other people. It's starting to look a lot like Christmas for his opponents, in essence, because, of course, people are swayed into this false dichotomy between left and right, Republican and Democrat, so they're going to swing to the other side and vote some crazed evangelical in that'll do the same thing. It's self-destruction. It's almost like Obama saying, I don't want to be president, please let me out. I don't want my pension, please get rid of me. It's crazy. I started suggesting to people that they should call into their local radio station and request Bye-Bye Miss American Pie and dedicate it to Obama and the NSA. And I still think that's a great idea, and you should probably do that. I'm going to do that later myself. It's not a case of a handful of goofy conspiracy theorists and hardline Tea Partiers saying that Obama's doing something wrong. All the Republicans and Democrats now are coming out. His approval rating, I wouldn't be surprised if it plummeted. These are very serious, egregious violations of the Fourth Amendment. And going after other political groups was a huge violation of the First Amendment. People have the right to speak freely and organize. Targeting journalists, another First Amendment infringement. These are serious things. The Constitution is not negotiable, or it shouldn't be. We shouldn't consider it negotiable. We never should have allowed the Patriot Act. It was reactionary. It was based on fear. It's time for it to go, and it's time for the administration to go. And by that, I don't mean we need to vote in Tea Partiers. I mean we need to vote them all out. Every incumbent. Every single one of them. Regardless of how peripherally associated they are, because even the ones that weren't authors of any of these things were still complicit. They still voted for the Patriot Act renewal. Guess who the one person who voted against? I think there was only one person who voted against it, and I believe it was Ron Paul. should give you an idea of how unanimous they are in support of it. They voted it back into use without even discussing or looking at it. This is a symptom, a major symptom, of a government that's completely dysfunctional and has lost its fucking marbles. They're completely and utterly insane, to the point where now every American citizen is a suspect. The founders would be ashamed of this. The founders would have rolled in their graves if they were able to hear about this. None of, even presidents from a more recent past, would have looked at this and said, that's insane. It's dystopian. You don't even have enough money to pay off your debt, and you're building a multi-billion-dollar data center just to spy on citizens. It's reprehensible. It should not be going on. It needs to be done away with utterly. The data center should be bulldozed. Put a park there. Put something useful there. Maybe build a school for disenfranchised youths or something. Make it useful to the people. The people wouldn't want to be terrorists anyway if life was a little bit better for them. Well, you fucked up the economy. There's your problem. You've put millions of people out of work and onto the streets or onto welfare. There's your economical problem. What do you think that leads to? Why do you think crime would rise? These people are completely out there. They have no clue what's going on. Feinstein and Clapper and Holder and Obama and Bush and Cheney and all the others, they're just like Nixon. I pointed out to people, this government is more like Benedict Arnold than George Washington or Thomas Jefferson. It's sad. It needs to stop. People need to be more up in arms. If that requires marches on D.C., or people petitioning, or whatever it happens to involve, they should do it. It's utterly insane.